Welcome to the Silver Screen Podcast. I'm Jared Boomer.
And I'm Katie Gainey West. This is a podcast about movies and pop culture.
Today we've got a big episode, the Oscar nominations for 2025. We're going to go over those a little bit. And then later in the episode, we will share with you our top 10 movies from 2024.
I love this. Jared, it's this episode and the Oscar episode that I love the most.
Yeah, this is a great episode because we don't share our list with each other before the episode, so we never know what the other person has on their top 10. And obviously it's an exciting time too. You know, the Oscars are coming up. We're about a month away. They're still scheduled to be held in March. So it's that time when the nominees are out, so the anticipation grows and you're trying to see all the Best Picture nominees. At least we try to do that every year, make sure we get to see all of them. And there's 10 this year, so we'll go through all that. But yeah, very exciting. I'm excited to hear your top 10 and then share my top 10 as well. So
me too. I have some comments about the movies of this year when we get there as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting year for movies for sure.
Interesting is a good word.
Yeah, I think somewhat affected by the actors' strike and the writers' strike that happened last year. That really affected production of things that came out this year. So a lot of things that were supposed to come out this year, or 2024, got pushed to the year we're in now, 2025.
Right.
So 2025 is a little bit of a bigger movie year, but 2024 was definitely interesting because the strikes obviously kind of delayed a lot of stuff. So.
Yes. Oh, actually, since we are going to talk about the Oscar nominations, basically, I feel like the movies this year are movies that if my family got together, like my parents' generation got together, which great generation, not knocking on them, but I feel like they would just hate almost every film. They'd be like, this is a pile of crap. I hate everything about it. How graphic, how horrible, blah, 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 blah. There'd be so many hot button issues and things that people would talk about. Again, not my parents, their generation. Would just be like, I hate this. And you know what? I have to say, Jared, I wrote a little statement to myself on my notes that I have to be honest. I tried so hard to see a lot of movies at the last minute, like I told you, Jared, because I wanted to have a good top 10. I wanted to be able to have a top 10 for this episode. But I have to say, I do not think this was a great year for movies.
No, I did not see a lot of movies in theaters. I mean, I saw a decent amount, but I didn't go as much as I have in some previous years. And even the streaming options and stuff, nothing would really ever jumped out to me like I need to watch that, or didn't really hear a lot of conversation about, things that come out on streaming. Sometimes you get that weekend or week period where people are like, you got to watch this movie. Like, this is really good.
Right.
You hear about it on social media or whatever. Didn't get that a lot either this year.
No, you know what though? I think it's been a great year for TV. I think like it's been a really good year for strange. TV. Yeah, but it's strange to see how many TV shows are thriving. The obsession people get over certain shows, like even Severance, that's like the newest one. The Bear, like there's just waves of, oh my gosh, this show's finally back. But movies, I feel like even though this is a movie podcast, it was not a great year for movies. I'm glad I still have a top 10 and I'm glad we're going to talk about them. But my last thing to preface us talking about the Oscar nominations, there are 3 Best Picture nominees I haven't seen. And I did want to say that up front because I have a feeling at least one of the films I have left is going to be one I'm going to love, I think, based on the material, who's in it, what I've heard about it. So I do think my top 10 would be different if it was closer to the Oscars and I had seen everything.
Yes, that's the same with me too. I have a couple of Oscar movies that I have not seen yet, and I think 1 or maybe 2 of those would be in my top 10 if I had seen it by this point. Just again, like you said, based on the subject matter, the theme of the movie, things like that. It seems like some of these I will enjoy whenever I have a chance to see them. So
yeah,
unfortunately, both of us live in the Midwest, and that kind of sucks for like Oscar movies because while the big cities get showings of them, we don't get a lot of showings around here. Just every so often. And if you do get a movie in theaters, it's like they might have 2 showings a day of that movie, and it's hard to get to a theater to see it sometimes. So
and even with the lack of movies and stuff, I have heard, I don't know about you, Jared, but people have been looking forward to the podcast and listening and telling me about it. So I am glad that we've come back to cover movies leading up to the Oscars. So thanks for being here, and thank you for anybody who's been listening too.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and go through some of the Oscar nominations now. We won't go into every single category, obviously, but we'll
Right.
hit some of the big ones, give our thoughts. The nominations came out January 23rd. Bowen Yang, Rachel Sennett announced these. I don't know how you felt about them. I thought they were very casual with the Oscar nominations, which is fine, but it just seemed like they were, one, kind of delirious because they were up so early Los
Yeah.
Angeles time, but also just seemed like they were just, I mean, you don't want to be so like uppity up and serious about it, but it just seemed like they have kind of an attitude that was like, this isn't the most important thing in the world. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt.
I didn't get to watch it because I was up
Okay.
early that morning. I remember I was up super early, but I was at work, so I wasn't paying
Okay.
any attention. But I didn't even know who Rachel Sennett was.
Yeah, I've seen her in a couple of things,
Okay.
couple of movies and stuff, but she's definitely not a huge star. And
Who?
I
What
would
has
say
she been
Bowen,
in?
she has been in the movie Bottoms, if you watched that. That came out last year, I
I
think.
haven't seen it, but a lot of people have talked about it. But it's weird you mentioned that because I've seen it circulating in conversation the last few weeks.
It's got your favorite girl in it from The Bear. So, she was in Saturday Night, which came out this year, about Saturday Night Live, and then she was in Bodies, 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 which I have not watched that, but that's
Oh,
another one
okay.
that she's known
Yeah.
for. So, yeah,
You're alluding to Iowa Debris.
yeah,
I'm sure she's a great person. In fact, I like her in interviews and stuff. It's that character.
yeah, yep.
I
So,
can't.
yeah, and then Bowen Yang, obviously pretty well known at this point with the SNL thing, and then being in
Yeah.
Wicked, which was one of the biggest movies of the year. So that's a little more recognizable. But it's not like they never get like announcing the Oscar nominations will be Tom Hanks and Brad Pitt. It's never like two people that are just like A-listers that are doing it. It's always like these B or C level celebrities that just decide they're going to do it. So
Yeah.
so we've got the Academy Awards coming up on March 2nd in Los Angeles, of course, hosted by Conan O'Brien. They're going to air on ABC and they're going to air on Hulu this year for the first time, streaming live on Hulu. So that's nice that you'll be able to watch them if you don't have ABC, although ABC you can get with a antenna. So usually a lot of people can watch the Oscars. But that's when the Oscars are coming up. We'll go ahead and start with the big category, Best Picture. They decided this year they were doing 10 nominees. They can do anywhere between 5 and 10 nominees, depending on what the Academy decides on. They decided on 10 this year. And so the 10 nominees for Best Picture: Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. What do you think of those nominees?
I mean, what what a weird group again. And I'm still here. This is interesting. I probably going to get the exact wording wrong, but I think this is the first time they've had two films nominated for Best Picture that are also international film submissions. So Amelia Perez and I'm Still Here are international films. Um, so I think that's interesting. But
Yeah,
what a it's an odd sorry, it's an odd group, and I would say there's not even like a common the only thing I found that kind of ran through a lot of the films was either about trans people or female bodies, female rights, and things like that, which or like be women's sexuality and things like that, which does make sense because of the political climate and an election year and all that stuff.
yes. So yeah, there's really not, like you said, there's not a lot of themes going all between these 10 movies. So you have some in here that are obviously big blockbusters like Dune and Wicked, and then you have some smaller movies like Nickel Boys, Nora, The Brutalist that maybe were a little bit harder to see in theaters. And so you've got a mixture there, and I always like when they put in some popular movies, but you're right. There's no real theme or connection between these movies that are in this Best Picture list, and you have some movies here in Best Picture that did not get a lot of nominations overall in other categories, and then you have some that got a ton of nominations. So there's even variance there in terms of like a movie like Nickel Boys did not get a lot of nominations, but a movie like Amelia Perez got a bunch in other categories.
Yeah, and I probably should never be amazed by this, but Amelia Perez, it's usually the film I would never pick as the top. My favorite film of the year is the one that gets the most praise, the most accolades. I mean, basically, you can set your watch by if I feel so so about a film, the Oscars are going to be like, this is the front runner, and that is Amelia Perez. I don't think It wasn't a terrible movie, and I know Jared, you haven't seen the whole thing yet, but um, I get why people liked it. I did think there were some really good things to highlight about it. Do I think it was the best thing I saw this year? Absolutely no. No, not by a mile. But once I heard it got 13 nominations, which was above The Brutalist and something else, A Complete
It's like, so
Unknown.
it's one of the yeah, it's one of the most nominated movies
Yeah,
of
because
all
they
time
got
at the Oscars.
yeah, it got 13, and then The Brutalist and something else got
I think
10, which I think
Wicked.
oh, maybe it was Wicked. And then I
Yeah.
know that Conclave got 8 because I looked that up last night.
Yes, so those are kind of the big heavy hitters for this year's Oscars, and that's the Best Picture category. So now we'll move into Best Actor. We have 5 obviously in these acting categories. Best Actor, we have Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, and Ray Fiennes for Conclave. At this point, this seems like a two-person race. From what I'm hearing, it's either going to be Adrian Brody or Timothy Chalamet, most likely will be winning Best Actor.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be Adrian already, which I would be happy for him. Obviously, I want Timmy to win. I'm okay with Timmy not winning this year, but I loved Ray Fiennes' performance. And I don't want to get too political. I did watch the movie that Sebastian Stan's in, but Sebastian Stan, like huge crush alert, love that man. I have thought he was hot for so long, but I'm really happy for him. Like I'm happy that he is this person, and he really, because of the election and stuff, he didn't talk about this movie. He was very intentional. They keep talking about that. They're like how sneaky he was about not promoting the film, but promoting like the next Marvel movie and other things. So he was still getting noticed. He was still talking about things, and then snuck in an Oscar nom. It was I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that people were a little surprised to see him in that category for that movie. He had another movie that came out. I forget the name of it. I'll look it up here real quick.
A Different
But
Man.
yes, that was the one that people thought maybe he would get nominated for and not for
Same.
The Apprentice. So,
That's what I thought, and I haven't watched that yet. But if people are looking, I did look that one up. That one you can currently watch on Max.
okay,
Yeah,
nice. So, yeah, you're right. I did see that on there the other day. So I'll have
yeah.
to check that one out because I've heard his performance in that is really good too, and that's a
Hmm.
very highly reviewed critics movie and audiences like that one as well. So, I think that would be interesting to check out. On to the next category, which is Best Actress. Again, 5 nominees: Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, obviously, Mikey Madison for Nora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. Now, I'm Still Here is really the movie that kind of just popped up out of nowhere. Nobody really had this in their Best Picture
Hmm.
predictions or actress predictions or anything like that. And it's still very hard to see here in the United States. I think it's getting more theaters, obviously, and is going to be rolling out soon because of the Oscar nominations. But that's the one that's kind of the unknown at this point in terms of what's out there. I think this seems like it might be going to Mikey Madison. I think she's the favorite right now. I haven't seen Honora yet, but
Yeah.
I've heard her performance in that is outstanding. So
She is great. She is great. I'm surprised. Jared and I were talking right before we started recording. I'm kind of shocked that she's the front runner just because the Oscars, like the Academy tends to they don't like young men. I don't think
hmm
they have as much of an issue with women, but with the other women in that category, I'm kind of surprised that Mikey's the front runner. But I'm really happy for her if she wins. I also Nora wasn't my favorite movie of the year, but I did like it. She was superb. Like that's fair to say. But you know how usually they say like women like if you want to win an Oscar, you either have to die, you have to have like a terminal illness, you have to have prosthetics, you have to have an accent. Like she doesn't have any of that going on. She does have an accent. I should have said that. She does have an
okay.
accent. But other than that, she's not doing a lot of the things that typically you hear as the joke, oh, you have to do this to get an Oscar.
hmm
So,
Yeah, that is interesting. So, and it
yeah,
would be really interesting if she was, if she won Best Actress and then like Timothy Chalamet won Best Actor because that would be
right.
very young people winning those two big categories. So,
Yeah, and I do think people love I think Timothy is kind of like a darling, a Hollywood darling right now, but I and he's obviously one of my favorite people, but I don't really see him as a front runner for this, but maybe I'm wrong. I just see Adrian getting it. But I do think he will win an Oscar. I have no doubt, and I think there's just going to be more and more opportunities with the career he's already had.
I think you're right too. And this Best Actress category is kind of interesting because you don't have like any of your your regular actresses
Yeah.
in here. I mean,
Yeah.
Cynthia Erivo has been nominated before, but you don't have like an Emma Stone or a Carey Mulligan or a
Yeah.
Michelle Williams or
Yeah.
somebody like that. That's will normally get an Oscar nomination or will normally be in that category. They are just not in movies that came out this year. I think a lot of their stuff got pushed to next year. So
Yeah. And that was
the,
one of the, I forgot, I put this for later, but one of the things that's notable 13 acting nominees. So, specifically in these four categories of best actor and best supporting actor, actress, all that, 13 of them it's their first ever Oscar nomination. So, that is huge when you think about 20 people. Like total that
that's
are
true.
nominated,
Yeah. Yep.
13 of them, that is enormous. So Sebastian Stan, Demi Moore, Isabella Rossellini, this is her first one. Mikey Madison, obviously. So a lot of them are first time nominees, which I do love. So in a year I thought movies were pretty bad. I'm very excited about this Oscar race. I feel like this is the most unique Oscar race I've seen in years.
So now we've got Best Supporting Actor. We've got Yura Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Kieran Culkin has been the favorite in this for quite a while.
Uh-huh.
I think he's probably got this one locked up, and I haven't
Really?
seen. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Well,
So
I know I think he's the front runner, but to me, I think this might be the hardest category to win.
this is also difficult because you've got some really great performances in here. I mean, I
Yes.
have seen A Complete Unknown. Edward Norton's really good in that. I have not
Yep.
seen The Apprentice yet, but Jeremy
Jeremy
Strong,
Strong was really good. Really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So I think that is one of the tougher ones for
Uh-huh.
sure. But I think Kieran, I think is the front runner right now. We'll see what
How
happens as we get
exciting. I'm
closer.
so
So
happy for him.
I also think it's interesting, Kieran Culkin and Jeremy Strong, Succession, both going up against
Right.
each other in the same category. So.
Right.
And then you've got some people in here. You've got people like Edward Norton who are obviously have been acting for years, and Guy Pearce, and then you've
Mhm.
got Yura Borisov, who's relatively new. Obviously, this is his
Yeah.
first big movie, and then Kieran Culkin has done a lot of TV, but not a lot of movies.
Right.
And then teams up with Jesse Eisenberg for this one. So
Oh, Guy Pearce, though, that's the other one that I think
mhm,
is serious competition. People have been raving about his
mhm.
performance. And Guy Pearce, I saw an article, he basically has disappeared for a while and then comes back. I think he's very intentional about the projects that he does, and he's really good in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in.
So on to supporting actress, we have Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez.
I was pretty shocked by Monica Barbaro getting
Mm-hmm.
nominated. I think she's great. She's so good in that movie. She's beautiful. Good for her. I was pretty shocked. And then I also was kind of surprised that Zoe Saldana was considered supporting actress, not best actress.
Yeah, that is interesting for that category for sure. I also
Yeah.
think the other thing that interests me about this category is Isabella Rossellini getting in for Conclave. She's good in that movie, but she just doesn't have a lot of screen time in that
Okay,
movie.
yes,
So
because I just watched that, loved that movie. But I thought as I was watching it, I kept thinking she got nominated for this. And to me, it kind of reminded me of Silence of the Lambs, how Anthony Hopkins
mhm.
famously won for 16 minutes. He's on film in Silence of the Lambs. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening here. She gave a great performance. I don't know that it's one that I thought was maybe Oscar worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this to me is the most messed up, mismatched, miscalculated, whatever word I'm looking for. I think this category is the one that confused me the most.
Yeah, and even like the Ariana Grande nomination being in supporting, I guess you have to, you're going to put Cynthia Erivo in lead, but they're basically co-leads in that movie. So Ariana Grande is almost the second lead actress in Wicked. So it's interesting that they ran her in supporting. I haven't seen The Brutalist yet. I would say in terms of time on screen versus the people in this category, I would say the one that kind of makes the most sense for this particular category in terms of screen time is Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. I mean, I feel like that's a really supporting actress type role, where some of these other ones feel a little more lead-esque, like you said.
Yes, and I have heard Felicity Jones is
Yes.
super good in The
Okay.
Brutalist, and I love her. She
This
famously played RBG in
she
On the
did.
Basis of
So
Sex.
This episode sponsored by The Brutalist, a
Yeah.
movie we have not seen yet, but is getting a lot of buzz. So
It
check it
is.
out. It's
Yeah.
3.5 hours long. It even has an intermission built into the movie. So some notes about these Oscar nominations. As Katie said, 13 acting nominees receiving their first Oscar nominations ever. Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez is the first openly trans actress to be nominated. So that's exciting. Obviously, the
Yeah.
Academy switched up the membership a few years ago, got younger, got more progressive in certain ways, tried to expand and not have so many just honestly white people in the Academy. So the fact
Mhm.
that she is nominated is exciting. And obviously, with so many younger nominees too, and lots of people of color being nominated, you can definitely tell the switch in the Academy in terms of the membership and the people voting on these now.
Yeah. And then we also have, this answers my question. I even typed the notes. So Amelia Perez has 13 nominations. The Brutalist and Wicked are tied for second at 10 each. And then, Jared, I'm not surprised by this, and I don't mean to harp on it, but there's one female for Best Director. But if you look, there's somebody I follow that I think I've mentioned before, Alexa Spivey on Instagram. She loves movies too. She'd be a great guest for the podcast. But she even put how many movies this year, big movies, were directed by women, and it was a long list. And to see one woman in here, I just think, wow, okay, we could do better. And some of the movies this year that women directed, I think, were better probably than the ones nominated. And I was surprised by some of the directors left off this list.
Yeah, we were going to talk about snubs real quick, but obviously Denis Villeneuve is not on here for Dune.
Yeah.
Edward Berger not in this category either for Conclave. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have, like James Mangold gets in. That's kind of just like a very paint by numbers biopic there with a complete unknown. It doesn't seem like that's a hard movie to direct, whereas you've got Denis
Yeah.
Villeneuve who is directing Dune, which is obviously like an epic science fiction
Agreed.
movie. So it's just interesting who they pick for best director, because I think some of these movies are a little more difficult to direct than others, maybe.
Right. Right. And there were some other. Okay, I haven't seen the piano lesson
I
yet.
haven't either.
I knew, so that's based on an August Wilson play that's super famous. But Danielle Deadweiler is in it. That's all I needed to hear. Like, honestly, just hearing she was in that movie, I was like, well, I want to see it now. If everybody remembers, she was the mom in Till, and I raved about that movie, and she was snubbed for that role, which I thought was highway robbery. But she was snubbed again for the piano lesson. And then okay, so Jared, I put this is my opinion. I have a couple that I put my opinions. Selena Gomez was snubbed, they say, for Amelia Perez. I actually fully agree with that. I think she
Okay.
is the most likable person in real. I really like so much of what she stands for. I don't think she's a person that's really playing to cameras, like I don't think she says or does what people want. I think she is very much her own person and very grounded and self-assured. I don't I don't think most of what I've seen her act in has been stellar acting. I really like her in Only Murders in the Building,
Hmm.
but I think this movie was just so for her. I don't think this role was like the role of a lifetime. So I totally agree with it. Another one, so people kept talking about Clarence Macklin. He was in Sing Sing. I'm not surprised they didn't include him. I thought he did a great job, but I feel like the highlight was clearly Coleman Domingo. So I'm not really surprised by that. One that did really shock me was Daniel Craig. I keep hearing about Daniel Craig's performance in Queer,
Yeah. Yep.
and I haven't seen it because right now I think it's $20 to rent it, and I'm just kind of like, I don't want to see it that bad.
Hmm.
But I've heard he's so good in it, so I was pretty shocked. I mean, I've been hearing about that movie for probably 6 months, them talking about his performance, and he like did the publicity circuit and all that. So I was shocked by that one. And then I did write in the notes for you, Jared. Denzel Washington was not nominated for Gladiator, and some people were outraged. And I was like, good, bye. Because we talked about that on our episode.
Yeah, I didn't. There was talk of when that movie came out that he might get nominated, and honestly, his performance in that is fine, but it's not
It's
better than some
fine.
of his other performances that he has gotten
Yeah,
nominated
it's
for.
fine.
So
And it's so similar to stuff we've seen him do before. Like, there's nothing new about that role.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously Monica Barbaro getting in for Complete Unknown. She beat out a few other people, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then obviously Sing Sing didn't get in for Best Picture either. I have a issue with the way A24 marketed Sing Sing, because it's a great movie, but I feel like not very many people got to see it. And I also feel like they didn't push it enough either. I feel like if they had pushed it a little bit more, got into more theaters, whatever the case may be, they may have had a chance to get some more Oscar nominations. And I know A24 has a lot of movies that they are trying to contend with for Oscars,
Yeah,
but I think Sing Sing would have had a really good chance had they given it a little bit more support to get behind it. So, but I think
exactly.
they also have The Brutalist as well, and so I think once that started getting a lot of buzz, they were like, we're going, to maybe try to get The Brutalist more nominations because we think we have a better chance. But Sing Sing is deserving of a Best Picture nomination, I would think.
I completely agree. That was one that if it wasn't there, it would have been really upsetting. I think that Sing Sing was outstanding, but I'm with you. I think they released it at a strange time of year. And that one I had to look up a couple movies just so people know on Letterboxd. I think it was Sing Sing and Woman of the Year, Woman of the Hour, Woman of the Hour. They both said 2023 and I looked it up. I'm considering those 2024 because what they did was they showed them at the Toronto Film Festival and that was technically 2023, but they weren't released to like the public and stuff till 2024. So I just want people to know that. But Letterboxd, I think, is going by what was the first date this was shown. And so
Okay.
it says 2023. But anyway, so
Yeah, I noticed that on some of mine too.
yeah,
That they just seemed like they had the release dates from like you said, 2023 when we couldn't see them until 2024. So
right.
okay, well, we'll go ahead now and get into our favorite movies of 2024. Again, these are our favorites of 2024, not necessarily the best movies of 2024, although sometimes they do match up, though. And do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Wait, okay, so you know what? You go first because
Okay.
I can't remember who went first last year. But you go ahead, and I'll have to remember to write these down.
Okay. I
Okay.
also, before we start, I think we
Yes.
we might have the same number one. I don't know about the rest of the list, but I could see us maybe having the same number
That'd be
one.
so exciting.
We might even have the same top two. I'm not sure, but
Ooh, okay.
we'll see. I think
We'll
I
see.
think our 10 through 5 is going to be we're going to be varied on. So, we'll see
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Okay.
Without further ado, my
Yes.
number 10 is Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga.
Oh, yes.
I watched this a couple of weeks ago. I did not get a chance to see it in theaters. I regret that decision. This is the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out a few years ago, still directed by George Miller, starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. What I really enjoy about this movie is it's got some really fantastic action sequences in it, very impressive action sequences. The story is really good. Chris Hemsworth is playing a role that you normally don't see him play, so I enjoyed that performance from him. Anya Taylor-Joy is good as well. She doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie, so a lot of her performance is kind of silent and just using facial expressions and body language and things like that. I think if they had marketed this movie better, I think it would have been more popular and more people probably would have gone and seen it because it is a really good movie. But it's on Netflix right now, and so if you want to check it out, you can. But that's my number 10.
Excellent. I'm really glad. I told Arjun too what you said about that because I think he would like it. I was really debating on it because I don't know. I just didn't know if I wanted. I didn't with the limited amount of time I had this last week. I knew I didn't want to spend it watching that, but I might actually give that a go based on your review. My number 10 is Gladiator 2.
Okay.
I really debated on like, should this be in the top 10? But again, there weren't a lot of good movies this year. I think Gladiator 2 was good. I enjoyed it. We did a whole episode on it. If anybody wants to listen, it was only two or three episodes
Two or
ago.
three. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah. And I really liked it. I said, this is definitely one of those movies that you get what you paid for. Like, you came to see where are they going to take the story? There's good looking people in it. It was entertaining. There were things I didn't like, but I wasn't disappointed by it. If anything, it exceeded my expectations. But it's definitely a number 10 for me. It wasn't like ooh, this was in the top 3 for me. So it was good. It was better than good, but it wasn't superb.
It wasn't amazing. So.
Right.
My number 9 is Nosferatu, which we did an episode
Okay.
on. Really enjoyed Nosferatu as a horror movie. Thought it was very creepy. Loved the setting. The story was really interesting too. Really drawn in by the performances as well. I thought they were all very excellent performances, and Robert Eggers directing that did a great job with like setting the mood for that movie. So I don't normally love horror movies. I do like them though if they have kind of an interesting take, and I've enjoyed
Yeah.
Robert Eggers movies in the past. So this one, when I saw it, I just really enjoyed it. Thought about it for a while after seeing it. It is pretty creepy and it's
Yeah.
definitely spooky at times, but I really enjoyed this kind of retelling of a classic, tale.
Excellent. Okay, I my number 9 is Anora.
Okay.
I just watched it this last week. So I told Jared, since he hasn't seen it, the reason this is number 9 for me, I did think it was really good. It's a huge step up from Gladiator 2.
Okay.
So that's a big jump.
We're taking a
But
big jump here. Okay.
yeah, but it's not a movie that I want to watch over and over, if ever again. It
Okay.
was I felt like, again, I've never done coke or anything, but I felt like I was just doing drugs. Like I felt like maybe I'd done some coke and then was just, you know, like feeling the effects of coke the entire movie, and then was like, oh my god, I survived at the end. So it reminded me of Wolf of Wall Street. Jared said that and I was like, yes, that is exactly the feeling I had watching this movie. And another way I described it to him was, it goes from like, it definitely starts at like a 60, like there's definitely like
Okay.
there is stuff happening from the get, but then it ramps up real quick, and then it's just insane until the end. Like
Okay.
there's no slowing down. There's no like, let's just take a beat and take a breath and have a quiet conversation. There's none of that. You won't be getting that from that movie. But I thought it was really well done. I am glad that Yora was nominated, as opposed to the other main actor with Mikey. He was cute and everything, the Russian oligarch that she like marries or whatever. But Yora is the guy. He definitely shined. His character was noticeable and deserved that Oscar nod. But Mikey was fantastic. And I do like, I was very impressed by how confident she was in her body and being a stripper and all these other things. I didn't feel like she was acting, and I didn't feel like she was uncomfortable. I would definitely be. Now, if I was that hot and I was 26 again or 25, like for sure. But I was impressed by her. I believed who she was playing.
Yeah, and I've really liked I think I will like it when I watch it. I like
I think
some
you will
other
too.
Sean Baker movies, like The Florida Project. We were talking about that before we recorded. And that you talk about Honora being so fast paced. The Florida Project is like the complete opposite, where it's like a ton of time to breathe and very like drawn out scenes and kind of a slower pace to the movie. So it's interesting that Sean Baker can do, both types of movies well, it seems like. So
Yeah.
nice. Let's see here. My number 8 is Saturday Night, which came out a couple of months
Oh,
ago. So
okay. Yeah.
this is about the first ever show of Saturday Night Live, and basically it's done in real time from like an hour and a half before the show until the show starts. And so it is like Honora in a lot of ways, very hectic, very
Mhm.
chaotic. You are
Okay.
following Lauren Michaels throughout the course of the movie, and some really great performances in this one as well. We mentioned Rachel Sennett, obviously, who did the Oscar nominations. She's in this movie. You've got Dylan O'Brien in this movie as well. Gabriel LaBelle plays Lauren Michaels, who I hadn't seen in a whole lot of stuff before. You've got also in this movie, Cooper Hoffman is playing Dick Ebersol. So lots
Mhm.
of great casting in this movie as well. The guy who plays Corey Michael Smith plays Chevy Chase. He's really good as Chevy Chase. I like SNL. I think that this is really cool to see kind of how this process came together. I don't know how historically accurate it is to what actually happened. I'm sure they dramatized some things for the movie, but
Right.
overall, really solid watch, a quick movie, and one that in it was a subject that I was interested about, and a chaotic movie that kind of just again keeps going until the very end and is very high paced and intense and everything. And I think that's on Netflix right now. If you want to check it out.
Oh,
So
is it? Okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
add that to my queue. Thank you.
you're
Okay.
welcome.
My number 8 is Nosferatu.
Okay.
I was I wasn't surprised I liked it. I definitely did not feel that way about The Lighthouse. I did really like The Northman. If you all remember the year that came out,
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that film. Now, that movie was super like violent. But it doesn't matter. We're moving on to Nosferatu. But I remember just really liking that style. Nosferatu is a big departure from that, but I was impressed by a lot of it. And really, when Jared and I reviewed that movie, when it came down to it, there wasn't a lot about it I didn't like. There were some like graphic sex scenes. There were some things I didn't think it needed, but I think just on its own as a horror film, it was really well done. And it made me interested enough to watch the silent film. Like if I have the chance to watch the silent film, I think I'm going to, because and I think that's a positive comment on how highly I thought of the film.
So my number 7 is a documentary that came out earlier this year, and I know sometimes we put documentaries on our list, sometimes we don't, but I really enjoyed this documentary, so I felt like it had to be in my top 10. It is Will and Harper, which is on Netflix. So Will Ferrell and his best friend, one of his best friends, Harper Steele, is transitioning and has transitioned from a man to a woman, and so they go on a road trip across the country and just visit different places because Harper wants to experience what's it like to be a woman in some of these places where she had been before as a
Hmm.
man. And I loved just how kind of calming this was and how laid back it was, and you can tell that they're really great friends. Will Ferrell seems like a great guy, and you get to see a side of him that maybe you don't see in some of his more comedic performances. He's still funny in this movie at times, but he's much more, just himself in this film. And they come to Indiana at one point, which was interesting to see. They don't focus on that a ton in the movie, but they do go to the Pacers game and talk to the governor of Indiana, which is Governor Holcomb at that time. So that was interesting to see. And I really just like the road trip aspect of it, and it's a very heartwarming movie as well. It's just about a friend supporting their friend who obviously has decided to change and live their life in a different way. And I thought that was just a cool topic, and obviously one that was good to explore in 2024. So really enjoyed that. It's on Netflix. Did not get nominated for best documentary at the Oscars, which I was a little surprised about.
Hmm.
But a really really solid documentary. Will and Harper.
I heard really good things about that.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing it. So thank you for mentioning it. And although it's slow, I did check. I already added Saturday Night to my Netflix queue. I do appreciate that I think the some of the apps are slower to do this, but Netflix has added their Oscar collection. So if you're,
Oh, nice.
I really appreciate that because I did so much work last week right after the nominations came through. I went to Max, I went to Prime, I went to all these different things and tried to write down where you could watch stuff. A lot of them on Prime and Max would say coming soon, which is nice but irritating because I don't know when
Like, give
soon
me a
is.
date.
Is soon to you 4 months from now after the Oscars, or is it like in 2 weeks?
Or is it
But
tomorrow? Like, what
right.
is it?
But some of them are a little different. Like Jared let me know, the Wild Robot is now on Peacock. That wasn't on
Hmm.
there last week, so that's nice. So some people are like getting it together, and I appreciate. Netflix doesn't have a ton of things right now that's available, but I like that they at least have a section you can click on that says Oscar nominees or whatever, Oscar
Yeah, that is
collection.
nice.
So my number 7 is a smaller movie. It's Woman of the Hour by Anna
Okay.
Kendrick. So
Okay.
it's Anna Kendrick's directorial debut.
This
We don't
almost made
have
my top 10. So,
Yes, this for me was easily going to be top 10 unless one of the ones like recent ones from last week bumped it off. I was so impressed by this film. And I think it was a film that I heard a lot about the week it came out basically on Netflix, but I didn't hear a lot about it leading up to it and I didn't hear much after it, but I was blown away. And Anna Kendrick, I really do have mixed feelings sometimes about Anna Kendrick like in my past, but I was amazed this was her directorial debut. She also starred in it, and I thought she was great as that character. Like, I don't really know that someone could have done it better. I was also shocked by how scary it was. I mean, it's about a serial killer. It was one I wasn't familiar with. So I hadn't like heard a podcast episode or anything about this guy, but wow, was it creepy. And it is really interesting if you're around my age and watch the film. If you ask your parents about it, like my mom remembered this guy being on the dating game, like the dating show or whatever. So it'd be interesting because you can ask people who were alive when this guy actually went on the show and they would have seen him. But it was a great debut. It's on Netflix. So if you want to watch it, I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, it's not my top 5, but it's pretty close. I picked it above some good contenders here.
that scene in that movie where she's walking to her car
Oh,
is
that's the
probably
one.
one of the best scenes of the year, honestly, in terms of just how
Yes.
tense that is.
I
So,
was shaking. I remember that one, specifically that scene. This is another movie where I started it at my kitchen table on my cell phone, tiny screen, and just didn't get up because I was so enthralled. And I remember that scene, I was like shaking the chair because I was so scared what was happening. Yeah, unreal. So good.
my number 6 is a movie that came out over the summer. That is Challengers with Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Faced. Obviously, a tennis movie. Zendaya is a famous tennis player and then turns into a tennis coach, and it is a battle love triangle, but a lot of sports involved as well. Really kind of, again, action paced movie. The tennis sequences I thought were really good in this movie. The love triangle dynamic was interesting. I thought all three main characters did a really great job in their performances. And I just really enjoyed this. And I saw it in theaters, and it was loud, obviously, with the soundtrack, and really just fast paced. And so the trailers, I will say, make it look a little more sexual than it really is. I mean, they really
Yeah.
amp up the sexy aspect in the trailers. And while that is in the movie, it's not like the whole movie. So if you've been avoiding it because of that, I would say give it a chance, because that's not the entire movie. That is an aspect of it, but there's a lot going on between even Josh O'Connor and Mike Face's relationship, as well as friends that are now, dating the same person. So lots of interesting things. But Challengers, I really enjoyed that when I saw it, and I've thought about it a bunch. So number 6.
Excellent. My number 6 is Wicked. I
Okay.
loved Wicked. I know a lot of people loved Wicked. Some people probably would be like, it's not in your top 3. It was good. I just thought the other movies I've listed in my top 5, the stories, the everything about it just was more awe-inducing for me. Wicked was fantastic though. I mean, I feel pretty good about my top 6. The other ones I was a little like, they got to be somewhere on here. Wicked was so well done. The production design is insane. I have no doubt it will win some Oscars, and I think it deserves the nominations it has. Like, to hear it's nominated for 10, I'm like, yeah, that's about what I would say too. It should be nominated for 10. Fantastic. Again, Jared and I talked about, we're a little bummed that you have to wait a whole other year. We're a little confused. Does it really need to be 2 parts? But super well executed, very enjoyable. Definitely a film I would watch over and over.
Yeah, it's not on my top 10, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was very Katie's looking crazy right now. I thought it was very well made technically. I enjoyed the music, I enjoyed the story, but it did not make my top 10. So it will not be
Wow.
here in this
I
top
did
10.
not see that coming. A
I know you're probably a little surprised by that. So,
little bit.
okay, number 5 is A Real Pain, with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. This is a movie about two cousins, David and Benji, who go to Poland and honor their grandmother and also tour Poland. So, kind of like a road trip movie. Two really outstanding performances by Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg. It's also directed by Jesse Eisenberg. I loved how small this movie was, but how good the script was and how good the performances was. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't like tons of stuff happening throughout the course of the movie, but it was just really good acting and a really solid script, and really interesting to watch these two characters who are kind of complete opposites of each other interact with each other. And I feel like they're even complete opposites from each other in real life, because Jesse Eisenberg is kind of just playing Jesse Eisenberg in real life, and Kieran Culkin is kind of doing the same thing. But I really enjoyed this one, and again, it's nominated for a couple of Oscars, but it's on Hulu now if you want to check it out. But A Real Pain, number 5.
Excellent. My number 5 is Sing Sing. I thought Sing Sing is easily one of the best movies of the year. I kind of wish it got more recognition. Um, I can see it's not a showy movie. So I can see how it's kind of one of those that maybe people wouldn't remember as long. I more than any other movie this entire year, I've referenced Sing Sing or recommended it to people more than any other film. I think also because of the work I do, like my day job and stuff, this is very relevant. But it's a movie that really touched my heart. And of course, with my love of theater and acting anyway, I love seeing that people can belong to this program, especially men, and get in touch with vulnerability and be close to other men and have theater change their lives. And the thing that really stuck with me is that this is a real program and it helped with the recidivism rate. I think they said under 5% of people who belong to this program in Sing Sing go back to prison. They don't. So I just think that's amazing. And I think that, I mean, this is definitely my own opinion, but I think that in life we should invest more in reentry programs and people that are coming out of prison.
I would agree. So, yeah, you might see that one later on my list. Just a little teaser there.
Oh,
My number 4 is Conclave, which is Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, in this movie about the election of a new pope, a process that we as the public don't really get to see what happens much when that does occur. So this movie kind of takes you behind closed doors. I thought it was very interesting in terms of what's happening in this movie. This is a thriller for sure. I guess a little bit of a political thriller as well, because they have to get a majority to elect a new pope. And there's lots of times during the movie when you think it might be swaying towards one person and it goes towards another person. The costume designs, the sets are outstanding in this. The performances are really good. It's based off of a book. I have not read the book, but I thought this was just such an interesting movie. I think one that really any age group could watch too. There are a lot of older
Yes.
people in my theater when I saw it, but I think, people my age would be interested in this. I think this is a movie that kind of spans generations and just something that you're really intrigued by. And again, great performance from Ray Fiennes, great performance from Stanley Tucci. John Lithgow is great in the movie as well. So Conclave is at number 4.
Excellent. Okay. I actually think we're going to deviate a tiny bit, but I think
Okay.
for the most part, our top movies are in the same, they're around the same. My number 4 is A Complete Unknown.
Okay.
I was surprised this movie or this week when I was watching all these movies last minute was influenced that going down the list. I think I don't want to say I really enjoy you saying paint by numbers biopic. I kind of agree. I think Timothy is outstanding. I think the story of Bob Dylan is so interesting. There was so much I loved about that film. I think ultimately my top 3 just touched me more. They left more of an impression, but I thought A Complete Unknown was a fantastic film, extremely rewatchable. Um, Definitely stuck around in my brain, and Timothy is outstanding in it.
My number 3 is an animated movie, and that is The Wild Robot.
Whoa.
I saw this in theaters, really enjoyed this. This is based off of a children's book, and it's about a robot who has to learn to adapt to her new surroundings. And she basically builds relationships with these animals that are on this kind of island. Lupita Nyong'o does the voice acting for the lead character in the movie. Her name's Roz, and then Pedro
Mhm.
Pascal also does the voice acting as well as one of the main side characters. So I just really thought this story was very heartwarming, very touching. The animation is beautiful in this movie, how they've decided to kind of animate it. And I just think it's a really great story that the whole family can enjoy. And
Mhm.
I was really touched by it and its message and kind of what it was talking about. And so I just really enjoyed it. So I haven't watched it again, but I kind of want to. So that's number 3.
I love that. Okay, my number 3 is Conclave.
Okay.
I was crazy about this movie. I can't really say it any better than you did. I thought the production value was insane. Ray Fiennes carried that film on his back. He was so freaking good. Everybody was good in it. Outstanding performances, gorgeous movie, so simplistic. That
Hmm.
that is the overarching theme to me. My top few movies this year. I want good relationships and simplistic filmmaking. And I'm sure that movie cost millions and millions of dollars, but it was in one location. People had one costume. Like, that's all you need. Sometimes that is better than all this flashy stuff. And I don't know if that's a general theme in the world right now, but for me, I want to return to that kind of thing in film. Fantastic movie, Conclave. I'm going to be talking about that one for a long time.
I didn't talk about that with the Wild Robot either, but that is also a very simple story as well.
Mm,
And my 5, my 4, and my 3 are all pretty simple stories. So,
yeah.
my number 2 is one you already mentioned. That is Sing Sing.
Yeah.
Obviously Coleman Domingo, set in this men's prison where they start this drama program to kind of let men act out their feelings and talk about a lot of things that they're dealing with while they're in this environment of prison and being incarcerated. There's so much to like about this movie. The script is really fantastic. The performances are fantastic. It has such a real feel to it, and also a lot of the characters in the movie are played by the actual people who are in the program,
Yes.
other than Coleman Domingo, basically. So that is really impactful. I got to see this at the Heartland Film Festival. The director, Greg Quidar, was actually there for the showing
Cool.
and did a little Q&A afterwards. And he talked about the ending of the movie and how he's seen that ending a bunch, obviously being the director of the movie, but that he can tell when it really resonates with a crowd and when it's really impactful. And so that's just something cool to hear about. And then somebody asked him, when did you decide that the real people were going to be in this movie, and not played by actors? And he was like, basically from the start, we had that decision because we felt like we had to do that to make it,
Yeah.
more realistic and more authentic. So really
Yep.
fantastic movie. I don't know where you can watch this. Hopefully it's going to be on streaming sometime
I bet
soon.
they'll bring that one. Yeah. And Clarence Macklin, who was snubbed, but he is one of the people that in fact was part of this program, really was at Sing Sing and
Hmm.
acted in the film, and he was superb.
Yes.
My number 2 is A Real Pain.
Okay.
I loved this movie. I could not. I couldn't stop thinking about this movie. I almost had trouble going to bed that night because I was just like, wow. I kept saying wow. And Jesse Eisenberg, I've always thought he's such a kind of a weird dude. Well, also I hate Mark Zuckerberg. I hope you can hear this, Mark. And I loathed his character in The Social Network. So I know that that's not Jesse, but it was very hard when I first saw that movie to separate the person he was portraying from the actor. But Jesse seems very nice in real life. The performances were amazing, but this story resonated with me a lot. This actually reminded me of trips I've taken to Europe. This reminded me of conversations I've had with people and family members. I am always was and am extremely close to grandparents, the one I have left, but I adore my grandparents and really respect that relationship. And I loved the tie-in with the Jewish heritage and
Hmm.
respecting the impact, especially, I mean, now that's that. In fact, they didn't even try, but now that is a very, very topical thing going on this week, talking about Nazis and World War II and all of that. So I thought it was a beautiful movie, a beautiful story. I will be talking about it for a long time. That's my number two.
Yeah, really interesting characters in that movie in
Yeah.
terms of relationships. Jesse Eisenberg acts like he knew his grandmother really well,
Uh
but
huh.
Kieran Culkin, you discover throughout the movie, is really the one that had kind of a deeper connection to her. Jesse
Right.
Eisenberg's a little jealous about that, and so it's just really great acting and performances in that one. So we've
Yes.
talked about a lot of simple, small movies throughout the course of this list, and my number one is Anything But That. It is a big, epic film.
We
It
can
is
just say our top
okay. I thought you
together.
would maybe have the same number one. That's Dune
Yeah.
Part Two, right?
Dune Part
Yeah,
2. That's it. That's
yeah.
it. Congrats, Dune Part 2. You
Wow,
won.
what a movie! I mean,
Ye-
honestly, just in its execution, its production design, its
Yep.
performances, it is just an epic in every sense of the word. Denis Villeneuve did a fantastic job directing this. You
Yeah.
got Austin Butler added to the cast in this one. He's outstanding.
Oh,
Chalamet is obviously great. Zendaya, Florence Pugh, Rebecca Ferguson, everybody in this movie is just fantastic. I'm surprised this didn't get more Oscar nominations. I think what
mm-hmm.
hurt it is it came out early in the year,
Yeah.
but overall, like a really, I think I liked this even more than Doom Part One. I don't know about you, but
I don't know. I don't know if I can say that. I will say I felt almost blasphemous putting this as my top movie of the year because it's a part two. I feel like when are
mhm.
sequels ever better and stuff, but I'm with you. I might like it better than the first, but I think it's so rare to see a film that even comes close to as good as the original. Anything like the fact that he took these characters and brought them back and they were just as interesting, and they were just as like knowledgeable about the story. It didn't seem like, we were picking up some, like, or it did seem like we were picking up right where it left off in the first one. And again, that was a movie I really had no things I really wanted to change about it. It was fantastic. And if you all are interested, Jared and I both absolutely love the film. As you can see, we did that as episode 207 for our podcast, and I gave it a 97. So I think we knew the writing was on the wall for this one.
Yeah, and it's on Netflix right now if you want to check it out. So
Yeah.
you definitely should. You should watch the first Dune, obviously first, but the second one is outstanding and takes a very complex story and makes it understandable for the audience, which I think is a
Yes.
tough task as well. That's a very big, chunky book. So to be able to kind of condense that down and get the important parts out of it and relay that well is obviously great filmmaking there. So
Really good point.
we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back real quick and talk about some of our favorite movies we watched that aren't from 2024, and then 2024 movies that we also disliked. So we'll talk about that when we return here on the Silver Screen Podcast. And we're back here on the show. Just a few minutes left, and we're going to talk now about something that we started a couple years ago, which is our favorite movie we watched for the first time in 2024. That's not from 2024. So maybe like a classic or something we had never seen before that really impacted us. So you can go first. I had two. I don't
Thank you.
know. Did you just
Okay.
have one or
Oh,
two?
that's perfect because I have two for most type movie that I
Okay,
hated.
great. So
Okay.
what do you have for this?
Random movie I watched for the first time I loved, Klute, Klute. It's from 1971. The
Okay.
reason I watched this, my dad has always raved about this movie, and it has Donald Sutherland. And Donald Sutherland sadly passed away last year. And so I thought, I've got to watch that. It's a noir style psychological thriller directed by Alan J. Pakula. And I was watching it and I thought, man, I even said to my brother and my sister-in-law and my dad, we were all watching it together. Oh, and Arjun. And I said, this really reminds me of All the President's Men, which, if people remember, is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And then I look, he directed that too. So no wonder I thought the style was the same. This movie stars Jane Fonda as a call girl and Donald Sutherland as a detective investigating his friend's murder. Jane Fonda won Best Actress for her role in the film. And honestly, like, I don't even know who was up against her that year, but they didn't have a chance. She was so good in this movie. Rotten Tomatoes, to this day, the critic score is 94%. But again, that's called Klute, Klute. It's so good.
Awesome. So I have two. The first one is Stand By Me from 1986. This is directed by Rob Reiner, based on a Stephen
Yes.
King book. I had never seen this before. It's about
That's one of my dad's favorite movies.
four boys who decide to go see this stranger that has unfortunately died, and they kind of just trek to this adventure. But there's such great performances in this one. Will Wheaton, Corey Feldman, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell all do great jobs in this. It is a great movie, great adaptation of a book. In fact, I think, if I read this correct, Stephen King said this is his maybe favorite adaptation of any of his books, at least at the time when it came out. So
yes, I think that's true. And if anybody wants to know, that is in, so Shawshank Redemption is a shorter story or whatever. That and Stand By Me are both in, no, yes, The Seasons, which is Stephen King's book. There's 4 books in it.
So I just really enjoyed Stand By Me. It's a short movie, but I watched it during the summer, which I feel like is a good time to watch it. So really enjoyed that one. And then the other one that I watched that is a little bit older that I had never seen before is The Sting from 1973. Robert Redford, Paul Newman. This is another heist movie. It's one of their friends get murdered, and then they have to basically get revenge on the crime boss that was responsible for that. But they do it through kind of an elaborate betting, gambling scheme that goes on throughout the course of the movie. So again, great performances, really funny movie as well. That one's directed by George Roy Hill, and obviously that did win Best Picture the year that it came out, but I had never seen it before, and it's well deserving of that honor because it's a fantastic movie.
You're making me want to watch it again because I think it's on Netflix now. But I love that movie because I love those 2 actors. Obviously, I've talked about Paul Newman and Robert Redford before. Yum.
So that was fantastic. So next movie from 2024 that we disliked. What do you have for this?
Okay, I have 2. I
think I know what one of them is.
I feel very strongly about these. I know I'm going to get some hate, but this is how I feel. And I didn't even have to think about this. This was actually the easiest decision for today. Challengers and The Substance.
Really? You did not like Challengers?
Hate
Okay.
it. I watched Challengers and I was like, oh, here it is. Here's the movie that everybody talked about. Because every year there's one movie people are like, oh my God, life changing. That was the best. It was so good. And then I watch it and I'm like, literally, what movie were we watching? Because there's no way we just watched the same film. That was Challengers for me. I think Zendaya on Euphoria, superb actress. So good. Magnificent. She can act toe to toe with the best of them. I think Challengers did not show off her acting prowess. I actually wanted it to be sexier. I was disappointed by how much they put in the marketing that it was going to be so sexy. Then it wasn't. I feel like there was no point. I feel like I didn't understand the ending. I feel like there was so much about the relationship dynamics that they didn't get into. So I was like, but I want to know more. Why did these 2 get married? Are they still what's going to happen here? Why do they barely care about their child? I had so many questions. Why do you want to go after the douchebag that is Josh O'Connell's character? Why? Not that I haven't done that in life. I'm just saying. I hated it. I hated it so much. And then The Substance. Jared and I both watched this recently. I will stand by I hated it. But I think there was a lot of promise. I think there was a really good concept. Jared and I both said that. Those might be his words, not mine. Really good concept, hated the execution. I thought it was about as physically gross as you could ever get.
It might be the grossest movie I've ever seen.
I think it is. And I think I don't, violence doesn't bother me in movies as much as a lot of people. That being said, Tarantino is known for dropping the N word, the F word, and violence out the wazoo. And I felt this was him times 1,000. And it was directed by a woman. And I'm just confused. So I hated the execution of it. I can't believe, except I totally can believe it's nominated for as many Oscars as it is, but I absolutely hated it. Would never watch it again. Would not recommend it to my worst enemy. Hated it.
Yeah, I did not love it either. You could throw that in mine as well for a movie
Cool.
that I didn't love. I again, I liked the ideas that it was going for, but I just thought it was very graphic and gory and gross. And I know that's a type of horror, like body horror is a type of horror that some people enjoy, but I don't really enjoy that. My other one I would put on this list would be Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I saw this in like a few people's top 10, so I was like, I'll watch it, I'll check it out, see what it's all about. It's about a guy who's being basically trying to be captured at a concert.
Yeah.
So many, as somebody who goes to a lot of concerts, so many weird things about this movie that happen. Like the concert starts during the daytime. There's clearly like this is like the longest concert ever because like he leaves like 3 or 4 times to go out into the concourse and then come back and the concert's still going on. He gets backstage somehow like very easily. He gets with the security team very easily, all that stuff. I just did not enjoy this at all. I thought it was not a good M. Night Shyamalan movie. It wasn't a great performance from Josh Hartnett. Then I basically heard that like he made this movie because Salika Shyamalan is in the movie and basically wants to be a musician. And M. Night Shyamalan's like, well, I'll make a movie around that because that's his daughter, and we can focus on your like she's the musical performer in the movie that they go to the concert to see. So
Wow.
lots
Okay.
of like nepotism kind of surrounding this one as well. So,
Wow.
and then the second,
That's
and then at one point they leave the concert, and then the whole like all the intensity kind of just dropped down immediately, and I just didn't really like it after that point. So, Trap, one
dang.
of my least favorite movies of the
Thank
year.
you. Thanks for sitting through it so the rest of us didn't have to.
Yeah, I think it's on Max if you really want to watch it, but I would probably skip it. So,
M Night Shyamalan, that is one of the directors that I am so like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. It makes me so sad because Signs is one of my favorite movies of all time. I cannot believe the same man did Signs, and then this
and
is where we're
sometimes
at.
sometimes he does something decent. Like he
Right?
did, Split like a couple years ago. That was
Yeah.
pretty good. He did Old. That one was okay. I didn't hate that one.
Right.
But Trap was not good. So, and then finally, movies we have to see before the Oscars. I am a little behind. I need to see The Brutalist, I'm Still Here, Honora, Nickel Boys, and finish Amelia Perez. I've started Amelia Perez. I haven't finished it yet. That's one of the, pros and cons of Netflix is you can just pause it and do something
Yeah.
else. So it's not going to
I
be, it would not be in my top 10.
yeah.
Based on what I've seen so far, unless
Wasn't
something
going to
really
be in mine
changes.
either.
Yeah.
I still have to see The Brutalist, Nickel Boys, and I'm Still Here. I am going to try. I usually try to see the animated shorts and documentary shorts and live action shorts if I can, because those I can usually get in bits and pieces, or the local theater offers it, which is really nice. I just have to like get tickets and go. It's usually an evening, like a full evening, but I'll try to do that. But I'm excited. I do think Jared and I have discussed we're not sure what our next episode is going to be. Again, we plan to end the podcast sadly at the Oscar after that Oscars episode, but I do think I would put my money on we're going to cover The Brutalist because
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
would.
too many people are talking about it. We got to talk about it.
I think we will probably do that one. Have you
Yeah.
gotten the red carpet invite for the Oscars yet? Since this is our farewell season of the podcast, they
You
haven't
know
sent it to
what?
me yet. I was
They
wondering if it came to
haven't.
your house.
I am going to assume because of the fires, which we are still thinking of people. I
Hmm.
hope you're okay. But I'm assuming because of the fires, they're just like taking a minute to get the invite
Probably.
out
I'm
to me.
assuming that invite will come soon because
Yeah.
the movie podcast ending, they obviously want us there
I know.
to
And we're top
interview
of
all the
list.
actors. Yeah, I mean
Yes, of course.
it's E, ABC, and then us third, obviously. So watch out, Ryan Seacrest. We're gonna be right next to you on the red carpet. So
Love it.
get ready. Well, yes. So stay tuned. We might talk about The Brutalist. We probably will. The episode won't be as long as the movie because the movie's almost 4 hours long, which is crazy. But heard it's good. Lots of Oscar nominations, and of course, we will have a full Oscars recap coming up in March when the Oscars air.
Until next time, we'd like to thank the Academy.